So we had a great time, put on a great show, but he did not win the $5,000.
Welcome to the College Disc Golf Podcast. This is episode 1, History 101. My name is John Baker. I'm your director at College Disc Golf. I'm joined today by Mr. Pete May, the 11-time disc golf world champion, and as of this year, tennis national champion and ping pong national champion. Thank you so much for joining us, Pete. Welcome today.
Oh, man, my pleasure, John. I just think this is going to be a lot of fun recapping what's happened at collegiate disc golf. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Thanks for being on. So, Pete, let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, what's your history? What led you up to the point where you could even be in the position to start and found college disc golf?
John, when I was in the second grade, people asked me what we were going to do at recess. And so I've got a little hitch in my get along about thinking up things to do. I've always been able to do that. But I'm going to go back to, I grew up in Harrisburg. Didn't know what I was going to do with myself, but I graduated from high school in 1959 and said I might as well go to Augusta College because it was there. So I enrolled in Augusta College, and I've been playing ping pong for 2 years at the boys club. And I played a lot of ping pong at Augusta College while I was taking subjects on my off classes. And a guy moved to town that was better than me. His name was Herb Beckham. Herb was from Atlanta, and he was the best player in the South. I'd never heard of him because I'd never been out of town, played anybody. So I thought maybe I was the best player in the world because I beat everybody in Augusta. What a stupid thing to think. But anyway, Herb toasted me in the first single game we played. I was so impressed, without going into the details, I actually built a house to be next door to him, and we played ping pong every day for 10 years, over 30 games a day. That's 90,000 games we played, and I only won 4 of those games over a 10-year period. But 2 of them, those games were in the state championships, and I won the state championships in 1972 over a player that had beaten me over 80,000 games. So was I lucky? I was lucky, but I had gotten better. But it means I was not good in recreational games, but I was pretty good in games that mattered. So that's how my ping pong got started.
Gotcha. Sounds like you're a man who can perform under pressure, I have to say. That's what it sounds like to us. So not to interrupt your table tennis, stories, and we appreciate that. And I have to say thank you for my serve. Watch out. You don't want to play me. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Pete. All right. So tell us a little bit. What was your involvement with disc golf at the time then?
Well, at that point in time, Harold asked me if I did an event for him, he would let me play in the tournament. So I was a tournament sponsor, and I was there actually playing in the tournament. So my goal was in the tournament was to shoot my age if I could. And at that time, I was probably in my early 60s at that time. Well, of course, I never shot my age, quite honestly, until this year. I shot an 80 this year in a practice round at the tournament. So it took me until this year to ever shoot my age. So I finally shot my age on the golf course in Rock Hill.
Wow, that's incredible. I don't think anybody else can compete for that title.
Well, we hope so. I've got people wanting to try next year. There might be an event next year of future age.
What?
Let's talk about that. Yes.
Wow, that's incredible, Pete. So around what time was this? Was this before or after the 2006 Worlds came to Augusta?
It was before. It was probably 2002 or 2003.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
That's about when that was.
What really led up to the Worlds coming to Augusta, and what was your involvement there?
Well, at the time the Worlds came to Augusta, we put in a bid for it, and I had just served 2 terms on the board of directors, which really my 2 terms was to help them get out of a contract with a Sports Loop, which was a TV contractor that really wasn't doing the job, and they got me on the board to get them out of the contract. But while I was on the board is when the opportunity to have a disc golf mecca, and that was Stork's idea, and Brian Graham took Stork's idea and actually put it on a piece of paper, made a plan, and we made a bid to Columbia County to buy an old archery range and build a headquarters for the PDGA, and I was on the board and actually signed the contract to get that contract closed.
That's pretty cool, Pete. I'm sharing a picture right now that is a little bit of history of what you're talking about. We have you standing here with Mr. Jim Kenner, founder of Discraft, and y'all are standing next to a sign that says Future Home of National Disc Golf Association. What was the National Disc Golf Association?
Well, at that time, what they were going to do was have a headquarters and have 3 courses designed by top designers, and Jim Kenner gave them the baskets for one course, and he was designing that course himself. Chuck Kennedy and Tom Monroe were designing a course. That was probably the end of a course. And then there was one more course, maybe a DGA, I don't remember. And I think John Howe might have been designing that course. So 3 courses were designed by top course designers, and Jim Kenner in that photograph was one of the course designers.
Wow, that's cool, Pete. That's really cool. So what was your involvement with the 2006 Worlds? So what just real quick, what year was that? What year was
well, we made the bid in 2005, and we got the bid, and Brian Graham and I agreed to be co-TDs for the tournament. The Augusta Disc Golf Club put in the bid, so we were co-TDs. I did the front end work. I did a lot of the fundraising and some of the politics to get other people involved, and Brian agreed to run the tournament once the tournament started because I wanted to play in the tournament. So in 2006, I was 65, ready to play.
Oh my gosh, and you did play.
I did play. I finished second in my division, and I was beaten by that great player, Peter Shive. I had a big lead going in the final 9. It was pouring rain. I wasn't a seasoned player. He was, and I gagged in the rain, and he came by and ended up beating me by a shot. And that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because I would have probably thought I was too good and I might have gone back to table tennis. And I had to play him 7 more times before I ever won. So Peter Shive was a great training session for me.
That's incredible.
He's a great player, by the way, and a great sportsman.
Yeah, it sounds like y'all had some battles over the years for sure.
We did, and we're real close friends also.
That's awesome, Pete. I have to ask, so for 2006 Worlds, there was a new course installed for the purpose of the event specifically?
2 courses.
Tell us the story of the Hippodrome. Give us the background there.
We put in Lake Olmsted as a new course, of which I was the designer, and Brian actually got the course installed, Brian Graham. And then we put a course at the Hippodrome, which was a horse facility over in North Augusta, fairly near Riverview Park disc golf course. And we put in a gold course over there, which a par 65, full-blown championship level golf course at the Hippodrome in North Augusta. Yes.
Wow, that's pretty incredible, Pete. And that course evolved and split into 2 courses?
That course became 2 courses. That became Old Glory and Hodback, which was later be one of the two of the courses for collegiate disc golf. We bought some more land, which was on the other side of the interstate, which allowed us to put in 4 more courses. So the Hippodrome actually had 6 disc golf courses to handle the growth of the collegiate championships. And that was the courses we put over there was an Innova course called Donovace Dunes, DGA course called Hedrick Hills. And then I had put in a course myself called Moody Woods to honor my grandfather, and I had those baskets. I bought those baskets myself and put them in. And then we had a short course called Shotmaker, which was a par 2 course that was really quite a course to practice your putting and upshots.
Yeah, I have to say that for sure. That's what I remember most about Shotmaker was I was throwing P2s all over that course and learning that made me familiar with that disc, and definitely is why I can say today I'm confident throwing putters as drivers off the tee, and really, having confidence in my upshots. So, but we have to talk about Shotmaker a little bit more than that.
Well, it was a course that I just did anything I wanted to. I had Mandos 3 foot tall that you had to go under. I had holes buried in the ground. I had island greens, every type of Mando, left, right, and triple Mando on the course. There were roller holes that favored if you threw a roller, it would give you a better advantage. I tried to do every shot that you might do with a putter. I tried to create with Shotmaker, and it was short enough that anybody, ladies, new players, anybody could reach the hole, and one to make an ace. But it was very difficult to shoot a two par on that course. It was worthy.
Yes, that was definitely a very, very, very challenging course in its own unique way.
Absolutely.
Yes, it was. All right, so let's take it back a little bit, Pete. We talked about the Hippodrome a bit there. So after the 2006 Worlds, you created this mega course of the Hippodrome. Fill us in a little bit. What happened after the 2006 Worlds? How did collegiates come to be shortly thereafter?
Well, Mr. Morris, Billy Morris, the owner of the Augusta Chronicle and quite honestly a media magnate. He had 40 newspapers at the time. He owned, and he loved Augusta, and I asked him to be the honorary starter for the collegiate championships. I wanted his input, and he liked it so much. He watched the tournament, liked what was going on. He asked me, he said, I want this tournament here every year. I love this tournament. And well, I had to go back to him and say, boss, I can't do that. I said, that's on bids. There's no way in the world. This might not come here again for 20 years, which is about right. And he said, well, then I want a tournament equal to that. And I want you to think that up. And I thought about what wasn't going on. And I had a friend that was a president of a college, East Georgia College. His name was John Black, Dr. Black. And I knew he liked disc golf, so I talked to him. I said, what do you think about you and I collaborating and starting a collegiate championship? Will you be the commissioner? So we've got an academia person in charge. He said, I'll do it. So that's how it got started. But the PDGA gave me Matt Gillis as an intern to work for me for 6 months. Tim Peterson helped me. My son Patrick May called colleges and helped me with a lot of technical items. So that was kind of the way it started. Matt Gillis, myself, Tim Peterson, and my son Patrick, and John Black. We were the ones that actually put on the first tournament.
Okay. So go into that first year. What were some of the memories that stick out in your mind? I mean, you have to be able to go all day with stories from.
Well, there are a lot of stories. There are two particular stories. I felt like it was easy for me to get regional schools, but I felt like if I could just get somebody from the West Coast in, it would be national. So I went to Dr. Black and I said, do you know any college presidents on the West Coast? He said, I know the president of Southern Cal. I said, well, you call him and ask him to send us a team, and they can be in their inaugural tournament of collegiate disc golf championships. He said, I'll call him. He called me back and he said he'll send 4 players. So he did send 4 players, 2 ladies, 2 guys. Guess what? They were ultimate players. They'd never played disc golf in their life. They had such a good time. They finished last. They had such a good time, they came back the second year and played again. So that showed you that we were on to something that was great. Now, secondly, I designed a course I call the stadium course. I was going to try to sell tickets to it. It was a 9-hole putt-off for the top 4 teams so that I could have everybody at the end and people could watch them up close and personal. Well, the idea was good, but what happened, you don't know what happens about weather. We had a windstorm when we started the final 9. Alabama was leading by 20 shots, so it looked like they had no chance to lose. Well, they lost. That wind, we had a 60-mile an hour wind that lasted for an hour.
Wait, 60 miles per hour?
Up at the Hippodrome. As you know, the Hippodrome is the highest point in the area. The wind was coming across the top. It blew all the tents that I had, shredded all my tents. But here's the bad thing that happened. The captain of the Alabama team at that time had
we don't have to use names.
We're not going to use any names. Here's the captain. Here's the captain of the team. He had a 4-foot putt, and he made his putt into a headwind. The disc went straight up and 80 feet behind him, and he snapped. He snapped so bad that he couldn't control himself, and the team had to vote him off the starting team and put in a substitute to take his place. He actually snapped. Now, why did he snap? Because the collegiate championship meant something.
The first year, too. You want
to
be that
inaugural champion. And the University of Georgia eked in with a much weaker team than the Alabama team, but it was pure luck who won because of the wind. So we had a windstorm.
Pure luck, or was there some strategy
involved?
Well,
there wasn't pure luck. Here's what Georgia did that I had not seen before. They were the last team to shoot. they formed a soccer line like the blocking line when you do penalty kicks, and they blocked the wind so they could make the short putts. And because of those short putts they made, they picked up 20 strokes in 9 holes over Alabama and won the first championship.
Wow.
Their team captain was Kenny LeClaire.
Dang, Kenny LeClaire, huh? So did Kenny, he had something to do with bringing that team together?
Well, he did.
Right? Yeah.
Georgia did not have a disc golf team, and I was able to find, I looked up in the alumni book, and I saw that he said he listed one of his hobbies as disc golf. So I called him, and I said, Kenny, this is Pete May. You don't know me, but we're having the collegiate championships in Augusta, Georgia. Please bring a team from Georgia. He found 3 other players. He didn't even know them, and they formed a team, and by golly, they won the first year.
Wow, Pete, that's pretty incredible to win the first year in that fashion. Man. So the first year, let's talk about the format a little bit. So there were singles rounds. What were the rounds? What was the format
The first
like?
year rounds, it was all singles play. We would we had four people on the team, and we were dropping the low score from the lowest player, but we were only doing singles. So we, as you know, later on we had the 4-man doubles format where we had 8 players on a tee pad, but that was not in the first year. The first year was just singles. I didn't think about the 4-man format playing doubles, alternate shot, alternate tee, but that allows you to put 8 people on a tee pad, and when college teams are in uniform, it becomes one arrival contest. So the event itself is a contest between 2 schools, whether they're in the hunt or out of the hunt. Also, you get to see the uniforms. So the uniforms have a pageantry in college sport. The colors of the school is so important. And even later on in the tournaments, they would bring mascots. Oregon brought a duck one year, so mascots started coming much later in the tournament. So that format created true team play.
Wow, that's pretty special, Pete. Man, we have to say at College Disc Golf here, we love that format. That is the favorite part of the experience that we're able to provide for the players, because it's 4 players playing towards one score. You know, you have that camaraderie. It's really a great positive experience for
Absolutely.
the players.
I think it's a great format for disc golf.
Gotcha. So tell us a little bit about those first few years. How did the format change? What were the players' attitudes then?
Well, here's what happened that surprised me. The year Colorado State won, the captain of the team was Austin Montgomery, and Jared Rohn was on that team. They were head and shoulders the best team there. He came to me after the tournament, and he'd been knowing me since he's 12 years old, so we kind of had a great relationship. And he said, Mr. Pete, he said, why don't you have more doubles and less singles? He said, this is a team format. I thought they wanted singles more than doubles, so I had 3 rounds of singles and 2 rounds of doubles. So I flip-flopped it and did exact opposite and gave them 3 rounds of doubles. And it was only because me respecting the top team telling me that, when I knew they had an advantage in singles, that meant that was a better format. And also I learned from the players. Now, whether you remember it or not, but I had a players committee of captains. They picked 7 team captains to handle rules that we didn't think about. If we had any issues during the tournament that could not be resolved with the rules that we had, I turned it over to the college players to make the call, and I would never make a call. I wanted them to be in charge of the tournament, not me.
What?
And
that is so unique.
That
I've
happened
never
twice where we had a problem that we had to resolve an issue that was not in our rules. I said, okay, team captains, make the call. And so the 7 team captains that were on the committee got together, and they came back and made a call. And both of them were tough calls, but fair.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, Pete. For me, looking back on the history and back, you know, those were unique times. It's pretty crazy to see pictures of the first few years when we're talking about 7 and 10 teams playing, you know, and now we got up to 70 teams, 400 players.
Exactly.
It's really incredible to see the growth and where it started, and thank you for everything you did to start that and get the ball rolling. Looking back on those first few years, what are some memories that really stand out to you? You know, what were some significant moments to you?
Well, I'm going to tell you, one of the things that was a highlight for me in the 3rd year, we started playing guts. And we had the collegiate guts championship and we were sanctioned by the Guts Association, and they even sent us the disc. Walter Clay was the person that he had played Guts, and he said, "I'll come over and run the Guts tournament for you." So we added Guts in the play, and it had a pizza party. So we had Guts and pizza, and that grew into a nice event. So that was a sidebar event we had at night. Another thing that Walter had an idea was to have the championship team come to his restaurant and have a dinner, the team, and that started, and I didn't think the players would like that, and I was totally wrong. They love to dress up, and then we would ask them questions. We would have Dr. Black would come, and we would have certain celebrity people come and interview them and ask them what they were taking in school and really treat them as celebrities, which they were. They were former champions. So that was my friend Walter Clay started that, which was wonderful.
Yes, that's a really special experience. I have to say that I was lucky enough to be escorted back to the back room at Ray's Coastal Cafe, and we got the 4 or 5 course meal, and we got to sit there with Walter Clay, and luckily enough for me at the time, Jonathan Poole even joined us at our table.
Wow, I don't think I knew that.
Yep, and I have to say, Pete, that's one of the most special experiences I've had, and still top dining experience for me. They'll have to say, don't tell any of my chef buddies I said that, but yes, top dining experience, and that was very special. So I have to share what impact that had on me, for sure.
Well, I'd like to just go ahead and say this. That a lot of people said, boy, what a sacrifice you made. I never made a sacrifice for collegiate disc golf. It was a total joy for me to meet all those young people, and I was over 65 when I started doing this, and it just gave me a shot of energy to work with young people again. I had Mr. Morris come twice and speak in an opening ceremony, and Mr. Morris is one of the top businessmen in the United States, so I looked for different people to do the opening ceremonies. I had the mayor do it. I had different people come and just speak to the college players. I wanted them to have a special experience and know how wonderful it was. One thing I never finished, and I wanted to have a parade downtown in North Augusta, a golf cart parade, and introduce all the players. That's still on my list of things to do, is to see a parade ahead of the tournament.
Gotcha. We have to be real and let the people know you are a true promoter at heart. That is who you are, I have to say, Pete. And I've learned so much about promotion from you. One of the coolest things I've seen was the billboard. You know,
we had a great billboard. I did. I had a billboard made that said Collegiate Disc Golf with a basket on the billboard. You're right. I rented a billboard and put a basket. And I had a big basket made also. Innova had a giant basket made at the Hippodrome that every player wanted their photograph taken with it. And a few times I saw players sitting up in the basket. And I never said a word. I just turned and walked away.
Oh my gosh. Thankfully, Doug, Tim, and Robert and the ground crew knew how to build some strong structures.
It was in a telephone pole. Using a telephone pole, I made it to be a ratio to a disc golf basket with a telephone pole size. Yes.
That's pretty cool. Was it the world's largest basket at one time?
It is. Well, as far as I know, it still is. I've never seen a basket bigger than that.
Yeah, comment on the video below, guys and gals, if you think that you know a bigger disc golf basket than a telephone pole.
Absolutely. I'd like to know about it.
Yeah. We'll have to post some pictures on our social media and throw it back to that. So make sure and check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, College Disc Golf, and we'll post some pictures of the world's biggest basket that Pete had created.
Absolutely. And Harold Duval sponsored that and sent us all the materials to build it. And Doug and Tim Peterson built that basket.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty incredible, Pete. We were so fortunate to have a great run there at the Hippodrome. You know, it started there, it grew, still to this day, we've had our largest year ever there.
Oh, exactly.
You know, 6 courses on the facility, and I remember making the schedule with Alan, and we were slap filled up, all 6 courses. It was very unique, it was very special, and we love and miss the Hippodrome dearly. So
we had a great leaderboard, if you recall, too. We built a great leaderboard there at the final hole for the teams to see their names on the leaderboard. So that was another thing we had. So we had a lot of unique things, and I think the hole that most players will remember is Mount Kuhar. I was a mound builder. Yes, I could run a bobcat, and I love moving dirt, and I built a lot of holes with mounds that created fast greens, and I had a lot of fun with those holes.
Yeah, you did, and I have to say, back then we got a little bit of flack for, the putt-putt style or whatever negative adjectives that were used. But you have to look at the course design that we're seeing nowadays. You see elevated baskets everywhere.
They're copying what we did.
They are precarious basket locations on hills.
Yes.
Those are staples we see in the disc golf realm now. But back then, that was on the cutting edge.
Unique. It was unique. Nobody was doing that.
Yeah, nobody was for sure. Wow, we had a great run at the Hippodrome, Pete, and I think that's going to do it for us here tonight too. Thanks for tuning in to the College Disc Golf Podcast. This was episode 1, History 101. Make sure and join us next week with Alan Kane and History 102. So long and see you later.